Hello, I am the Infinity Theorist, Quake spin-off enthusiast, and spoilers for What If, episodes 1 through 7. And yeah, again, those spoilers are very old, at least in Marvel context. In normal, any other content, it's a few months old, it's still considered spoilers. But yeah, in Marvel context, a few months is like 3 years, so whatever. But yeah. So, episode 7 was an interesting episode. It actually came out on my birthday, fun fact, and that's kind of interesting. So, it came out on September 22nd, which is my birthday. It also came out the same day as my book came out. That's a little self-plug. The link is always in the description for that. But yeah, my birthday is September 22nd. What If episode 7 came out September 22nd. And it isn't really my favorite episode, like, at all. It's not the worst episode, I don't think. But it's not, like, my favorite. I don't know. I really like episode 4 and episode 8 and 9. Those are, like, my 3 favorites. But probably episode 4 the most. Especially because Multiverse of Madness is coming out. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be getting off topic. Okay. But yeah, this is my review and analysis of What If episode 7. Okay. So, first, let's start with my notes. Sorry, I blanked out. Okay, so, at the beginning of the episode, we see the opening scene of Thor, one of the opening scenes of Thor, when Darcy and Jane are in the van thing and waiting for something, and yeah, and then Thor comes out. It's cool, and yeah, and in this episode, instead of regular, what is Thor? It's still Thor, but he's the party prince now. Ooh. And then the Watcher tells us that it's the relationships define heroes, right? The things like the interesting like relationships define heroes, like any kind of relationships, friendships, siblings, and yeah. And so in this universe, Thor was raised as an only child because Loki was not raised as his brother, and instead of keeping Loki to raise as his own, Odin did the right thing and gave Loki back to his parents. And actually, his parents were happy to see him. So, think about that. Think about how terrible Odin is in the MCU. Because his parents actually did want him. I guess they just, lost him. They didn't actually leave him out there to die or whatever. So, they did want Loki. They just forgot him or something. Or maybe they just couldn't go back for him. And so, there you go. Okay, anyway. So we see Thor. So then they go back a little bit in time to where they're on Asgard, and they see Thor and Odin sleeping in the Odin sleep, and Frigga's there too, and she's about to leave to go meet with some people, and she tells Thor that he needs to study, no parties, and so yeah, Thor is pretty much a 1,500-year-old teenager now, so that's great. And yeah. Anyway, in true teenage movie fashion, like stereotypical teenage movie fashion, the Thor throws a party anyway, and it's on Earth. But before that, he of course talks to his friends, his study group as he calls them, while they're on Asgard, planning the whole party on Midgard, or of course, the Earth, like we know it. And right behind them is, of course, the fake Infinity Gauntlet. It's not the real one, but it's there. Then they talk about how Heimdall doesn't pay attention to Earth, which is kind of funny considering this is an Earth-made show. And then Howard the Duck comes out. That's cool. Skrulls come out. Then Jane talks about the Norse gods and Norse mythology, and Thor mishears her and thinks she said horse, so that's interesting. Also, Thor destroyed someplace, like a planet or something. And yeah, Nebula and Korg come out. Drax, Valkyrie, the Grandmaster, and a lot of other people from Sakaar come out. That's cool. And then Darcy and Howard the Duck get married. And yeah, and also Thor and Jane get matching magic and science tattoos. And yeah, and then when S.H.I.E.L.D. comes to take Jane for questioning or whatever, Rocket's there. That's cool, and Maria Hale's there, and that Hydra Shield agent's there. I never remember his name, but he's like that very, like, he looks like a villain kind of guy, and he's like in everything. Yeah, and then also here Fury was hurt by Korg like a lot, so that's funny. Oh, and Thor calls Rocket a rabbit the way he does in Infinity War, and I kind of like that. It's kind of funny. And then yeah, Coulson's there. That's great. And I talk about how whatever this is gonna set up diplomatic relations between aliens, that stuff. They get the Captain Marvel pager out. That's interesting. And then now there's another party in, I think, Paris, and that's cool. And Loki comes out and as a frost giant with his frost giant friends, and he's there, and yeah, he calls Thor a son of a witch, which is hilarious. I'm not gonna say, well, it's pretty obvious why that's funny. I'm not gonna say why that's funny. You know why it's funny. And it's also true because Frigga's a witch. So yeah, it's double funny, and you know why. And yeah, Thor calls Loki a butt ugly popsicle stick. I'm sorry. What am I doing? What am I doing with everything? Okay, anyway. Then Loki calls Thor his brother from another mother, which is of course a reference to one time when Tom Hiddleston got an award and said Chris Hemsworth was his brother from another mother. And yeah, in this universe, as in every other, I'm sure, Thor and Loki are still like kind of like brothers, and this is great because obviously they're brothers in the main MCU timeline. But in here, the whole thing is Thor was raised by himself. But yeah, that's great. Okay. Then, when Captain Marvel comes out, we see that there are words on every country. So like France has a word, the UK, United Kingdom has a word on it. Like it's such a cartoonish move for Marvel to do, and it's kind of funny, and I kind of like that. And yeah, Carol Danvers comes out, and then Thor introduces himself as Thor with a T and an R and an O and an H. Wait, with a T and an R and an O and an H, not in that order, and that's a fun little thing. And then yeah, there's an Earth. So Thor said there's an Earth word for people like Carol, and instead of saying why the. Okay, I'm gonna be creative here because this is supposed to be a family-friendly channel. Okay, so instead of saying the word that would replace what Loki called Thor early in the episode, Thor calls Carol a party pooper, and I really thought it would be that other word. I don't know why, but it felt like that would it felt like that was what they were going for. That's what the joke they were going for. But yeah. Thor calls his hammer a hammerang, which is interesting. And then Captain Marvel's knocked to the UK and almost breaks Stonehenge, but doesn't because she fixes them. And then Thor comes over there and he's like, okay, what happened? And it's like, oh, like, hey, what are these or whatever? No one actually knows because, no one knows what they are. And it's funny because no one knows what they are. And yeah, I like that. And then Thor does break Stonehenge. He just, knocks it all down. That's something. Yeah. And then they go to the USA, and I think they land on the East Coast, but they're in a desert, so I don't know. And then we get a Thor versus Captain Marvel fight, which is the whole thing. And then Captain Marvel absorbs lightning. And then get this, they fly over someplace, and it looks to be a reference to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tahiti. And remember, this episode came out on September 22nd. September 22nd is my birthday. And so, that was a birthday present to me, right? That's what... I mean, obviously not, because it's a very small channel. I'm sure Marvel has never seen my channel or my stuff. But that was pretty much, as a huge Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, that Tahiti reference, when I first saw the episode on my birthday, that Tahiti reference was, it's like a birthday present to me. Yeah, again, September 22nd was my birthday, and that's when this episode came out, and I'm so glad that happened, because it was such a cool coincidence, and I loved it. Anyway, yeah, so, then Thor tells Carol she needs a timeout, and that everyone calls her a party pooper. And then we go back to the helicarrier, and they talked about the cat, Goose the cat, or Goose the Flurkin, I guess, and how Goose is named after the Top Gun character, and yeah, and then Darcy suggests blowing up Thor in one of the Dakotas because no one notices if you blow up one of the Dakotas, and that is hilarious because as an American, this is accurate. No one cares about the Dakotas, and it's great. Like the Dakotas, Kansas, Nebraska. Well, maybe Kansas more than Nebraska, but still. But like the Dakotas, Kansas, Nebraska, a lot of these states no one cares about. Idaho, Montana. I'm sorry, I'm from Texas. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm from Texas, and this is my it's fun to make fun of other states, and I don't know why. But yeah, it's great. Yeah, most of the U.S., most of the country doesn't really, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Jane and Darcy are dropped off somewhere. That's interesting, and Howard the Duck comes around and calls Darcy Mrs. the Duck, which is great. Yeah, and then Darcy gives Jane an idea, and that idea is, of course, to call Thor's mother, which is a very interesting call and very fitting for the episode. But yeah, so around the parties that they're doing now, that Thor is having now, they're eating Chinese food in one place. They are rolling a Ferris wheel. Surtur, the giant fiery monster that's supposed to destroy Asgard, is flirting with the Statue of Liberty. That's interesting. And then the Frost Giants, I think, just deface Mount Rushmore, which is actually in one of the Dakotas, fun fact. It's in South Dakota, which makes Darcy's whole blow up the Dakotas thing even funnier. Then Jane calls Heimdall, and yeah. And then yep. Captain Marvel fights Thor again. They mention nukes. And then Thor lies to his mother and like pretending like, hey, what's Midgard or whatever? Oh, the locals call it Earth. And that was kind of funny because yeah, that's when Frigga's checking in on Thor in the middle of a battle. And that's great. Yeah, and Thor says that he and his, again, quote, is in air quotes, study group, are warriors for knowledge. And that's kind of funny. They never get to fire the nukes, which kind of upsets the Hydra guy, because he's Hydra. Yeah. Oh, and so, one of the funny parts. So Captain Marvel suggests that Thor should clean the corners and work his way outward. And that's kind of funny, because his immediate reaction is, but it's a sphere, and it is a sphere, and flat earthers will say otherwise, but they were wrong. Flat earthers are just absolutely terribly wrong, because there is evidence the earth is round. I'm just saying. Anyway, yeah. Loki and his Frost Giant friends decide to make the universe's greatest slingshot. I'm sorry. And yeah. Also, Loki refers to his friends as Iceman, which may be a reference to the X-Man Robert Drake Iceman, but probably is not. Yondu comes out. Drax is there telling Thor that he is now the one pooping the party. And yeah. Then Thor, goes up into the sky and talks like he's like a you know how he talks, and then he's like he's talking about how Frigga's like not happy, she's actually really mad, and they need to clean everything, and they need to fix up the mess, and yeah, and so that's funny. And so the funny part is they do this, but also while they do this,
Thor unleans the Tower of Pisa, which is just great. It's just great. Anyway, Frigga gets there, and they are learning or whatever, and it's like, learning is magic, that's something, and then it's, Thor says that Earth is the birthplace of the Snuggie, and this is kind of funny, and then Captain Marvel comes along with, like, an iPad that has a bunch of stuff on it, like PBS specials, NPR podcasts, and all the stuff on humanity, and that's cool, just, like, research paper, basically, and then, yeah. Oh, also, Frigga knows who Captain Marvel is, and that's kind of interesting, right? I don't know, it's just kind of interesting, I like that. At the end of the episode, Thor offers to take Jane on a date to a planet of unicorns, and I'm going to look that up. But I looked it up, I didn't find anything. But yeah, the unicorns exist in the MCU now, so that's canon. And then, of course, the whole pick her up at 8 thing is the thing that happened. Like, that's in, like, every, like, bad teenage rom-com. Anyway, the world is restored, love is blossoming, there's a happily, and finally, as kids on Asgard and on Earth both say, they lived happily ever after. Or not. Wait, what? Is that Ultron Vision? It is Ultron Vision! With all 6 Infinity Stones! Yay! That's a perfect end to such a Disney Channel style episode. It was a very Disney Channel style episode. But yeah, I liked the episode. It wasn't my favorite. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the review part. So first, the title review. What if Thor were an only child? It could be better. It could be better because I mean, what about Hela? Hela still exists. Technically, Thor is not an only child. He was raised as an only child. So if he said, like, what if Thor was raised as an only child, it would make more sense. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give this like a, I'll knock it off. Like, I'll give it like a 87 out of 100. It's not the best. It might actually, no, it's not the worst title. Is it the worst title? I think it might be the worst title we've ever had. And then the episode, I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't very good. It was like a little, just, it felt mostly filler. It felt like mostly filler, and I don't know. It was really just like it reminded me of Disney Channel shows, and that's not always a good thing, but it's not always a bad thing, because of course nostalgia exists. But like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Also, some Disney Channel shows are really good, like Gravity Falls, Phineas and Ferb, like those are classics, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't love this episode. It definitely isn't my favorite, but it's not. Well, I don't think it's my least favorite. I don't know my least favorite, but it's probably one of my least favorites. But it's not. It's not terrible, you know. So I'll go ahead and give this also an 87 out of 100. And that makes this episode just in total, just averaged out quickly to 87 out of 100. And that's it. That is, so you can top left, top right, or bottom left corner of the screen to watch another video. But before you do that, click the bottom right corner of the screen to subscribe and see more videos like this. And yes, I did finally upload a video. And so now I know what my end screen looks like, because I haven't uploaded a video in over a month. And that's... yeah, so now I know what my end screen looks like. Alright, that's all I have for you today. Goodbye.